Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Fabiana Bacchini. I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation. As many of you know, every Monday and Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we are talking to healthcare professionals, specialists, parents from across Canada on a lot of concerns that parents have during this time of the pandemic, and also issues that any parent living in an ICU have. So today we're going to address a very important issue for all of us parents, which is sleep. And to talk about that, I have here with me Alyssa Bietz from Manitoba, and she is a certified child sleep consultant and mother of two, with her second child spending time in the NICU. Prior to a career in sleep, Alyssa received a Bachelor of Kinesiology and worked in rehabilitation in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It wasn't until the birth of her daughter that she truly understood sleep deprivation and the toll it can take on one's mental health, relationships, and family life. After hiring sleep consultants to help her own daughter sleep, she discovered how life-changing it is to be a well-rested family. Then she began this fascination to the science of sleep and healthy sleep habits. Alyssa now runs her own consulting company and has helped many families become well rested again. Her goal is to teach families the importance of safe sleep practices while at the same time educating and empowering families with tools required to help their children receive quality sleep. How important is that?
Yeah,
Alyssa, welcome and thank you for joining us here today.
thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So I will ask you an important question for families living in the NICU. What expectations parents should have when bringing baby home from the NICU?
For sure. No, that's a great question. So, one of the main things to remember is that the environment in the NICU is very different than at home. And so, one of the big things is to remember that your baby is going to be used to sleeping in noise and light and lots of stuff happening around them. So, if you expect them to sleep in quite a quiet, silent environment, they might struggle with that. One really key thing is to give your child time to adjust, and just to know that it will be challenging because you're bringing your baby home from the hospital environment and now they're needing to adjust to home life in the outside world. So giving your baby time to adjust at home, it could take up to a month. Focusing on bonding, focusing on feeding. Now, sleep is really, really important, but also feeding and bonding with your baby because it's been difficult to do that in the NICU. One thing that can be quite helpful actually to babies who are coming home from the hospital is to introduce some kind of white noise machine or fan to their sleeping space. This is going to bring it to a place where there's a little bit of noise in the background, but it's not completely silent. And the other thing, one of the most important things that I talk about with my families that I consult is safe sleep. So a couple things to remember about that is one of the most important things is you want to keep your baby on their back to sleep. So once your baby comes home from the hospital, it's probably going to be you're going to be sleep deprived. It's going to be a new normal. Obviously, you're going to be concerned about the medical issues that your baby does have and the reason why they were in the ICU. So you really, really want to make sure that they are sleeping on their back in a flat surface, in a crib or bassinet environment. So with coming home, three things is you can introduce a sound machine. You really want to focus on adjusting, giving your baby time to adjust with bonding and feeding and safe sleep.
Absolutely. And I think this is something so important for us to talk about the safe sleep, because when we are in the ICU, the babies have rolls in the incubator, or if they move to the crib, they still have some other things inside the crib in the hospital. So this is not advisable to do at home.
Exactly. So we need to remember that in a hospital environment, when the babies are in the NICU, they have hospital staff, nurses, doctors. They are surrounded by them and they're constantly being monitored. So that is one of the reasons why they can have those different sleep things within where they're sleeping. At home, though, your baby's not going to always be monitored, and we want to make sure that you don't have anything in the sleeping space.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule, because babies come from the hospital with certain schedule, feeding schedule, and obviously when we bring the baby home, last week we talked about feeding, wake up the baby or not wake up the baby for feeds. So what do we do at home, like leaving that schedule, that routine in the hospital to adjust to this routine at home? Do you keep the same schedule?
Great question. Yeah. So, one of the main things that I recommend is that you actually talk with the hospital staff before leaving the hospital. Figure out what kind of routine schedule they had going on for the time that your child was in the hospital, because this can often be a really great indicator of what has been working well for the baby, and maybe baby needs to be fed more often due to low birth weight. So we always want to make sure that we're not doing major adjustments to what they have been doing for the time there. So that would be my first place to start, is just make sure that you know what they've been doing in the past, and they can give you probably a pretty good idea of what to move forward to. But with schedule, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But can I talk a little bit more about safe sleep?
Absolutely, because we still can talk about co-sleep, and there's so
Awesome.
many things there to prevent SIDS and
Yeah.
right.
So with safe sleep, just continuing on with that. So on their back to sleep, that is a huge thing. Now, when babies are in the NICU, they might be put on their front to sleep, maybe if that's the way that the nurses want them to sleep. But we need to remember, once you bring baby home, they need to be on their back to sleep. So that's one very important thing. The second thing is you really want to ensure that the crib, the bassinet, wherever they are sleeping, and you want to try to have a consistent sleeping space so that they begin to associate sleep with that space.
Mm-hmm.
We need it to be flat and we need it to be firm. So in the NICU, there were probably rolls and blankets and swaddle blankets. We want to make sure we remove all of those when you are at home in your sleeping space. One of the main things, though, is you want to keep toys, you want to keep blankets, stuffies, pillows. All of that needs to be brought away from the crib, because it can unfortunately lead to SIDS. Now, another thing with safe sleep, and this is actually really important as well, is we want to focus on the temperature. So temperature of the sleeping environment should be anywhere between 19 to 21 degrees. It can vary a little bit both ways, but it's actually best to make sure that baby is appropriately dressed for what the temperature of your home is. Now, with SIDS, overheating can be a possible cause of SIDS. And so making sure that your baby is not overheating, that they don't have too many layers. I know it's nice to have baby all snuggled up in layers, but we do want to make sure that they're actually sleeping in somewhat of a cool environment to reduce that risk. Yeah.
And how about, let's talk about co-sleep, because a lot of parents, they ask about co-sleep. Is it safe for babies? Is it something that parents should be avoiding?
Great question. So co-sleeping is not something that I recommend. Oftentimes co-sleeping is done based on baby not sleeping. So baby's not sleeping in crib or bassinet, then mom and dad bring baby into bed with them, baby sleeps better. That is the case. Baby may sleep better with you, but it is certainly not safe. There are many cases where mom and dad have rolled over onto baby, where baby's face has been suffocated in mattress and blankets. So it is best not to take baby into bed with you. If you are struggling with that, I am always here for a phone call. I would rather that you get information about how to get your baby to sleep better than resorting to co-sleeping.
Absolutely. This is very important, right? And for new parents, I think it's very important for us to point it out that SIDS is a sudden infant death syndrome. Um, I had never heard about that before I was a parent. I learned in the hospital, and actually I learned in the hospital when my preemie baby was born. I have never heard about SIDS when my third babe was born and I brought him home. I guess I read in a book, but it totally skipped my mind. But with a preemie baby, I actually learned in hospital what it was and how to really have a safe sleep for him. Another question I have for you about car seat, because many of us parents, baby fall asleep in the car seat, to bring the car seat home on a tiptoe, so not to wake up the baby. Is it safe to sleep on a car seat?
Yeah, good question. So it's best actually to not have baby sleep in the car seat. Obviously, you can't stop baby from sleeping in the car seat when you're driving to a family dinner or when you're going to a doctor's appointment. Those are totally fine because you have to get to where you're going. But once you do get home, it's best to take baby out, put them into that flat, safe sleeping space if you can. There is risk of the head being tilted to the side or forward and it blocking the airway. So it's best to take baby out of the car seat, even though they sleep well in it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first year at home. We had a chat before, and you talk about a good sleep environment. What is a good sleep environment?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question. So a good sleep environment, there's going to be three things that you want to focus on. So that's going to be light, temperature, and noise. Now, I'm going to talk about the sleep environment once the baby has adjusted to coming home. So remember, when you first bring baby home from the NICU, there's going to be a lot of adjustments. This might not be the right environment for baby. You might actually need to have a little bit of light, some more noise, because they're going to be used to that. But once baby has adjusted to being at home in your house, the three things, so light, you want to make sure it's actually quite dark in the room. I like to say pitch black. I actually have all of my clients cover up the windows with heavy duty garbage bags. One of the main reasons behind that is melatonin is the sleepy hormone. So melatonin is secreted by the cue of darkness. So if you have baby sleeping in a light environment, it's actually going to reduce that production of melatonin and it's going to be harder for them to sleep. So that's why you really want to make sure it's cave-like dark and you want to cover up all the light sources possible. So it's kind of crazy. Parents think I'm funny and I tell them to go and look at like the smoke detector, look at the monitor. Is there a light on the sound machine? Light crack coming from under the door? So important. And oftentimes children in those, or the babies in that first year of age, if they're struggling with sleep, this is going to be one of the first things I will tell them: get rid of the light. So the second thing is temperature. I mentioned before that we want the temperature to be between 19 to 21. If it's too cold, this might actually cause baby to wake up in the nighttime. So I think it's around 4 a.m. That's when temperature will drop, and we want baby to make sure that they're staying warm so that they're not waking up based on the temperature of their body. On the other hand, though, if it's too hot in the room, baby might be too hot and they're waking up for that. Now, this is a very, like, it's only kind of 2 or 3 degrees, but it can vary. My son sleeps in a little bit of a cooler temperature and he's okay with it. Sleep is going fine for him. So one of the things to remember is if sleep is going fine for your child and it's not one of those temperatures, keep doing it. You just want to make sure that baby is dressed appropriately for the temperature of your individual household. The last thing is noise. So baby coming home from the NICU used to a lot of noise. Noise is actually a good thing, but specific noise. So one of the main reasons why I would suggest a fan, a white noise app, you could do a white noise machine. I recommend this to all my clients because it's going to buffer the external noises from the outside environment. So this is especially really great if you have children, other children. So right now, if you have like you're homeschooling your older children and you have your baby at home who's trying to nap, a sound machine is going to buffer those outside noises from the older children, as well as cars driving by, dogs barking, and it's going to hopefully help your child to be able to sleep better and longer. A couple things to remember with a sound machine: we want to make sure that it's on pure noise. So we don't want to have lullabies, birds chirping, frogs. We want to make sure it's on pure noise. This is often something that parents don't actually know. So pure noise. And the other thing is constant. We want it to be constant and consistent throughout the whole period of sleep. So if baby's taking an hour nap, you want to have the white noise from the start to the finish of the nap. Same thing with night. So let's say baby sleeps 11 to 12 hours a night, obviously with feedings in there. You want to keep the white noise on the whole time.
Now that is very interesting because my first time I bought a noise machine and I never really used it because he slept better without. But with Gabriel coming from the ICU, it was a different story because you're absolutely right. There's so much noise in the ICU, and I think they needed that to adjust and adapt to a new pattern of sleep. But Alicia, let's talk about the waking time, nap time, what is appropriate for each age group. Let's talk about all the up to the toddler years. What are the recommendations? How does it look like? What expectations the families could have or should have or not have an expectation at all?
I love learning about this because this is something that I did not know having my daughter, and I just felt like I had no clue what I was doing. So I love sharing this information with families. Now, in those first 0 to 4 months, and we need to remember with babies coming home from the NICU, it's going to be adjusted age. So we need to always have that in the back of our head. But adjusted age 0 to 4 months, this is actually where there is no set schedule. Babies in this age group, they're actually following awake times. So if you've never heard of awake times, I'm not referring to the time baby wakes in the morning. I'm referring to the amount of time that baby is awake during periods of sleep. So I like to use the word a rhythm. You're kind of going to get into a rhythm throughout the day. With awake times, it's about a half hour per month. So 2 hours, I'm just trying to think of here. At 4 months, you're going to be 2 hours of awake time. 5 months will be 2.5. And then 6 months will be 3 hours. At about 0 to 4 months, baby can only be awake for 45 to 60 minutes. So it's quite short. In those first few months, though, you want to make sure that you're following the awake times. You can even go a little bit less than those awake times because getting baby sleep in those first few months is the most important thing. Sleep begets sleep. So if baby's not sleeping well at nighttime, you really need to take a look what's happening during the day. Now, with those first number of months, a really good schedule, but we're not going to use the word schedule, we'll go with rhythm for the day, would be to have baby wake up for the day. Baby takes a feeding, then baby's up for the awake time. So let's say we take a 4-month-old, baby's going to be up for 2 hours. Baby will then go for a nap, wake up, have a full feeding, and then once again be up for that awake time. That is going to be the rhythm that you are doing throughout the whole entire day until bedtime. And bedtime in the first year of life, I'm going to say 4 months to 12 months, is going to be anywhere between 6 to 7 p.m. Oftentimes, babies between 0 to 4 months have a significantly later bedtime, and that's okay. It's actually quite expected. It's not until baby is about 6 to 8 weeks when you see the social smile, so that really cute smile when you're so excited, this is when you can actually begin to move bedtime to that earlier place. But you're going to keep that rhythm throughout the day. It's going to be quite similar. Baby may be taking 4 to 5 naps, depending on the length of the nap. And naps are going to be quite sporadic in length. So you might have a 2-hour nap, and then you might have a 30-minute nap, and that's totally acceptable and normal. Once baby hits 4 months, you want to increase the awake time. Once they hit 5 months, you want to keep adding the awake time because as they get older, they're able to withstand longer awake times. So now once baby hits 6 months, this is when they can usually be awake for roughly 3 hours. Now, this is a very general guideline. There's some babies that can be awake for less time. Some babies naturally can be awake for more. 3 hours is kind of roughly what I recommend. Once you hit the 3-hour mark, babies can actually move to clock time naps. So just to kind of recap that first, awake times. Wake times is no set schedule. You're napping baby based on how long they're up throughout in between naps. Once you hit clock time naps, this is when the day becomes more predictable. And a lot of my families love this because they're able to say, baby's going down for a nap at 9:30, 1:30, and bed at 7. So it gives you more predictability throughout the day. With clock time naps, this is often when babies are taking 2 naps a day. So the clock time naps that I recommend are 9:15, 9:45. So baby's going to go down within that window, and then a second nap at 1:30, 1:45. So once again, baby will go down within that window. So this is when babies are on 2 naps a day, and then they'll go to bed between 6 or 7.
So somebody asked if there is a chart somewhere that summarizes all that schedule that you just gave us.
Yeah. You know what? My website right now is just a one-page website, but I'm happy to post a chart somewhere. I do have one on my Instagram page, and I'm pretty sure I have one on my Facebook page. But
can you share your Instagram account and your website?
yeah, so it's Your Sleep Story, and I can also share it on the page if you want, or maybe you could link it under this this Facebook Live. But it's called, my business is called Your Sleep Story, and on the business, it's my goal to educate families and to give you information just like that.
That is so great. Thank you so much. I have another question for you because when you were chatting before, and I asked about sleep training, and they said we don't like this word sleep training. You're teaching your child the skill of sleep. So when is the appropriate age to do that?
Yeah. So sleep training kind of has bad, I don't know. I prefer the term teaching teaching your child the skill of independent sleep, because that's exactly what it is. You are trying to bring your child from a place where they are relying on a sleep prop. Maybe it's you, maybe it's a soother, rocking to sleep. And now you're trying to bring them to a place where they're independently sleeping. They're able to wake up in the middle of the night time and put themselves back to sleep. The 4-month mark is actually the perfect time to start working on this. And oftentimes parents come to me at the 4-month mark because they are going through the 4-month sleep regression. If you look through the internet, it is a major thing out there. And it's when babies begin to wake up more just because they don't know how to put themselves back to sleep. My favorite thing about this is I love to call it a progression. And the reason behind that is because it's letting us know, baby is letting us know that they are ready. They are developmentally ready to actually work on sleep. So 4 months and above is when I recommend working on sleep. But one of the main things is with babies coming out of the NICU, we need to make sure that they are healthy. Obviously, if there is medical conditions, you need to make sure that you are addressing them with the pediatrician and your healthcare professionals before you begin to work on sleep.
Absolutely, because there's also a lot of parents ask us about reflux. If the baby have reflux at night, does it interfere with their sleep? So any thought on that?
Yeah, so reflux, one of the main things with reflux is we want to keep safe sleep in mind. So with reflux, there's the crib positioners. Parents often think about doing different things to the crib. Now, I would recommend not unless your pediatrician or your doctor recommends to do that. And then they can give you safe ways to go about changing the crib if that's recommended. With reflux, oftentimes, yes, it does affect sleep for sure. There is medications you can go on, but once again, that would be recommended by the doctor. One of the nice things though is once reflux is under control, babies can learn how to sleep. So that's one thing to kind of keep in the back of your head. If you are struggling with reflux, your baby can learn to sleep just as other babies can. You just need to get the reflux under control and sort that out with the healthcare professional.
That is great. So now for families of multiples, twins, which is another issue altogether. How do you get the 2 babies to adapt to the same routine or same schedule? Is that even possible?
Yes, it totally is. I've worked with a number of families with twins, and actually, my sister has 10-month-old twins, so I've seen it very firsthand. A couple things with twins is we want to make sure that you're actually keeping them on a very similar schedule. This is just going to make it easier for you as mom and dad in your home life, because if you have twins on opposite schedules, you are always going to be feeding a baby. And so one of the things to remember is keeping them within about 15 to 30 minutes of each other. So if one twin is sleeping longer, you do actually want to wake the other twin up within 15 to 30 minutes. Just to keep them on the same schedule so that they can keep that similar awake time as we talked about before. Same thing with the clock time naps. You would put them down at the same time. If one wakes a little bit earlier, you would always wake the other one to preserve the amount of awake time before the next nap. With twins, though, one thing that a lot of parents might not know is you actually want to cater towards the more sensitive sleeper. So with twins, there's often a sleeper that's a little bit more difficult. They have a little bit of a hard time falling asleep, and they might not sleep as long. You want to cater towards them, because when twins become overtired, it's a gong show. So you want to make sure that they're not getting to that point, and you just cater towards the twin that might need a little bit more sleep. The other
That's
thing
one
about
of,
twins,
sorry.
sorry. The
No,
other
go
thing
ahead, because we have a question here, but go
oh,
ahead.
the other thing about twins is all of the other sleep environment, sleep routine, safe sleep, all of that applies to twins as well.
Absolutely. Okay, I have a comment and a question from a mom. My boy is almost 8 weeks actual, but 4 days adjusted. The last 2 nights he has is sorry, the last 2 nights he has slept 5 hours, fed at 120, and then didn't wake up until 6. My midwife said that was fine, but I was wondering after listening to you if I should not letting him do this.
Oh, okay. So just to understand, he is 4 days old.
8 weeks actual, 4 days adjusted.
Yeah. So I would say whatever your midwife says is okay, I would go with that advice. They are the medical professional. They are going to be the ones that are going to be able to give you the best advice for your baby right now. 8 weeks old, so they are 2 months old, but they're only really 4 days old based on the due date. So they are really, really brand new. So sticking with your midwife and getting the information from them as you transition into the next few weeks, I would say is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Alyssa, thank you so much. I was wondering if you have one last message for parents who are listening to us today, because I know that first year home, it sometimes is so very hard not to sleep and be sleep deprived. It affects our mental health, especially in this environment that we are living right now in the pandemic, locked inside the houses with the babies. What can you say to parents now?
Yeah. One of the main things is I have been there. I have been in the darkness of sleep deprivation. I have lived it. And now I'm on the other side. So I know that things can change. We as a family hired a professional sleep consultant, and that's what started this passion of mine. I want you to know that sometimes all it starts with is a free 15-minute phone call. So I offer free 15-minute phone calls to every family. It gives us a chance to talk about your personal situation, and then gives me a chance to talk a little bit about the packages I offer and how I can help bring your family back to sleeping again.
Alyssa, thank you so much. And I also didn't sleep for 4 years because my preemie boy was on home oxygen and had several issues sleeping.
Yeah.
Now he's 8, and it's been 4 years that our sleep is resumed in the house. So there is hope. But obviously, if there is any medical concern, please do
Yeah.
consult your healthcare professional to investigate if there's any other underlying condition. But Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us here
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone at home for watching us here. You can also always send us questions and your concerns, and you're going to try to address your questions and concerns in other Facebook Lives with specialists from across Canada. And on Monday, we are going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to do a yoga class Not a full yoga. You can be sitting to do some stretch on your computer. What can you do at home with your baby? Some stretch while you're still, maybe postpartum and at home with your kids. I'm going to be talking to Pam. She is a yoga instructor and also a mom of a preemie boy who spent many months in the ICU in Calgary. And every Wednesday, we have a real-time peer support group with Kate Robson. She's a psychotherapist and also a mom of two preemie girls. And she's holding those groups for families, whether you're in hospital or you're home with your babies. You can join Kate and the amazing parents who are joining her groups every week. The link is always posted on our Facebook group, which is Canadian Preemie Parent Support Network. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend, and I see you all next week. Thank you.